Welcome to the Wild Physio podcast with your host, Andrew Wild. Now, today I have a new grad podcast. So I've got three new grads that are joining me. We have Dan Burgos, Simon Parsons from all the way over in Perth, and Pat L'Huillier. I said that wrong, didn't I, Pat?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll
That'll
leave it
do.
at that.
That'll do. How are you, boys? Thanks for coming on.
Good, mate.
Very
Good.
well.
Good. Now, first of all, I'm gonna hit you with some yes, no, or maybe questions, and then I'll just go through it. We'll go Dan, Simon, Pat in that order, and we'll jump into why you said what you said after. First one, does university prepare you well enough for private practice? Dan? Maybe. Simon?
I'd say yes and no.
Yep. Pat? Maybe. Do you learn enough about strength and conditioning at university?
No.
Are communication skills emphasized enough at university?
No. Yes, for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you learnt a lot via Instagram, YouTube, and podcast during your uni degree, and has it been invaluable?
Yes. Yes.
You don't have to say yes to this.
I've learned good and bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say yes as well.
Were you super nervous during your first consult as a new grad?
Shit, yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Should there be less focus on KPIs for physios, especially young physios?
Yep. Yes.
Yep.
So that was a yes through Yep. Are you happy with your new grad salary?
Yep. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I am.
Are you saying yes only because you get fired?
Not quite.
I'm currently in my workplace, so
Got a social media code of conduct to adhere by.
Fair. Should physios provide a longer initial consult of at least 45 to 60 minutes?
Maybe.
yeah, it depends.
Maybe.
Okay. Are physios underpaid?
Okay, maybe.
Again, it depends.
Yes.
Okay. Should universities offer elective units of study such as extra musculoskeletal and sports physio units to further enhance the knowledge of a student who knows what areas of physio they want to work in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I feel like you've been eavesdropping on my conversations with friends because I've said exactly that.
Yeah, it needs to change for sure. We'll dive into it after this. Last one, have the job interviews you have attended been thorough enough?
Nah.
No.
I wouldn't say thorough.
Okay, that is it. Well done, boys. Was it as bad as you thought it'd be?
Do we pass?
You passed easily. Well done. I'm happy with all those answers. All right. Now, first of all, let's just get a little bit of a background for the listeners before we dive into everything that we just went through. Let's just go through where you're currently all working, when you started, all that jazz. Let's start with you, Dan.
So currently I'm employed by Gippsland Physiotherapy Group in Victoria, based in Traralgon. Currently, I'm actually doing a bit of locum work up in Thirroul in New South Wales, just north of Wollongong. So nice to have a bit of, I suppose, different experience in a different clinic, different area, that sort of stuff. But yeah, primary workplace is Traralgon, regional Victoria. Started working in Feb this year. So what are we, 9 months down the track, something like that. Yeah, that covers it.
Simon?
I'm currently working in the Perth CBD for a group called Mayfly Group, and they own this practice, which is just called Central City Physiotherapy. See a lot of workers, couple of sportsy people who come in who also work in the CBD, but yeah, nice, healthy musk range to start with and slowly building my caseload. So I'm only 4 weeks in.
Nice.
Yeah, really enjoying it.
I can tell you're in the city, mate. Nice button-up shirt. Beautiful.
Yeah, I look like a picnic rug.
Pat?
So Dan and I are housemates and uni mates, so we work at the same place, Gippsland Physiotherapy Group in Traralgon. So I've also been working since February as well in Traralgon. So same thing.
Happy days. Now, the first question we went through was, does university prepare you for private practice? And some of you said maybe, some said yes, some said no. Let's go through why you each pretty much answered like you did. And what do you think universities need to do to make the process a little bit easier as you transition? Dan?
Yeah, so I think I said maybe. From what I hear speaking to different physios, depending on where they've gone to uni, they get, I suppose, different levels of exposure either to private practice directly or some form of strength and conditioning or exercise-based elective. So I think that's probably the main thing that needs to change on a more global scale, I suppose you'd say. Just probably providing more options for those who know what they want to do to really knuckle down and focus on that at uni. Felt like for myself, I've always known I wanted to do private practice. And so for me, all my hospital placements were quite literally just going through the motions. I was there because I had to do them. I took value out of them, absolutely. But that end goal for me had always been private practice, and nothing sort of really swayed that at uni. So for me personally, I would have really liked the ability to have a bit more exposure. And more options, I suppose.
And just quickly, Pat and Simon, did you both know that you wanted to jump into private practice sports musculoskeletal physio as well?
Yeah. I was
exactly the same. So if the university did offer, say, in the 3rd and 4th year, some electives that were sports musk focused, you would have dived straight into that and no doubt gotten rid of the cardiopulmonary or the rehab on the side.
100%.
Yeah. Well, we shouldn't have to go and do like the ASCA level 1, for example. If there was an elective available, a 6-week course in strength and conditioning, then a lot of people would walk out with a lot more knowledge when it comes to just your basic exercise prescription. And then you could obviously make that specific to dealing with acute injuries too. So they could do a S&C unit based around physio as well, for example.
Yeah, completely agree. I think that it's something that you need to integrate for sure. And I think the unis are starting to catch on a little bit, but they've got a long way to bloody go, because it sounds like you boys didn't get exposed to enough S&C at university. While we're on that topic, when you were at uni, what were you exposed to in terms of exercise prescription, gym-based work, also, energy systems, all that sort of jazz? Anything within the strength and conditioning realm, what were you exposed to? We'll start with Simon.
Just want to speak highly of my university. I was at the University of Notre Dame down in Fremantle, and I've just finished the degree. And I've actually, looking back and hearing, conversations with you guys and over social media and stuff, I feel that there is a change. And I feel like my year in particular was the guinea pig year for that more strength and conditioning based approach. We've got a new fit out, really new gym gear with some good lecturers who actually understand strength and conditioning. Only probably lacking a couple more lecturers and a few more experienced individuals in the S&C realm, because I found that I knew most of the things we were already getting taught through my background as a PT and having some S&C background and the ASCA level 1 and whatnot. But I think there is definitely, at least in Perth or at Notre Dame, there's that trend towards that exercise-based rehab and S&C. The unfortunate thing is we offer it as a double degree in sports science and physiotherapy, but so many people drop out because they don't want to do that extra year, or if it was a 6 or 12-week intensive, that would probably be a lot more palatable and they'd feel like they can kind of smash it out in the 4-year degree still, and then use it as a specialty. So that's just my 2 cents, but I think nothing bad to say about my university personally. I just think that there's that shift slowly towards that more exercise-based approach.
Very political standpoint, mate.
Yeah, I feel like they were really good to me, but I do think that there needs to be a shift across the board though.
Pat, got anything to add?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with Simon. I think there's slowly a shift happening across the board. And again, I would say like our university tutors and teachers and lecturers were great. I think it's more of a curriculum thing that comes from the top rather than what actually our lecturers wanted to teach us, for example. There was minimal exposure to any kind of S&C stuff as such. It was more just real basic exercise prescription. So like, Wilder, you've got poor knee flexion. What's a knee flexion? A-ROM exercise I could give somebody. So it was really simple in that realm. And I think that's where the course is really tailored to hospital physios. And I think that's the core issue rather than the uni being inadequate at teaching exercise prescription, for example. So that's what I'd say about my experience.
Yeah, and I think they've just got limited time. That's the biggest thing. But they've got limited time because they're trying to cram in all these different aspects of physio and different sort of streams of physio into the one course rather than giving people a chance to make a decision. You know, if there's electives, I think that's a great way to go, because I'm exactly the same, Dan, mate. I remember my placements when I was doing cardiopulmonary and rehab, and not saying that they were a waste of time, but yeah, I kind of went through the motions. You know, I didn't really mind that much. I just wanted to get through it because I knew that I wanted to do S&C based work, wanted to work in private practice, musculoskeletal sports stuff. So completely agree. Things need a shift. I feel like the shift is coming, and it's come a long way since I went through, but there's still a long way to go. And I think it sounds like it's more progressive over in WA by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I know there's obviously Curtin University too, and I can't speak personally on their behalf, but yeah, again, it's slow. It needs to happen quicker, in my opinion, especially given, you know, the growing epidemic with low back pain and still just coming into practice. The one thing as a grad I've noticed is how many people have chronic pain and how many people just have poor pain beliefs, and you have to re-educate everyone. It's crazy.
On that topic, actually, I'll dive into this. Do you think you were taught enough about pain and the pain science world at university, Dan?
Yeah, I think our course was unreal on that front. I can't remember when we first got exposed. I feel like it was even pretty early in first year. But we had Ebony Rio come and do a lecture on, I think her first lecture was on pain and then on tendon. So that was, I found her pain lecture and her as a lecturer was unreal and absolutely blew my mind, to be completely honest. I still think of that quite fondly, and yeah, so that big props to our uni for getting her in to do those talks. Yeah, we had a lot of really good exposure to all the pain science stuff.
And you would obviously second that, Pat?
Yeah, I'd say had a pretty good background in pain science from uni. It doesn't make it any easier when you get into clinical practice. I mean, you can't just talk someone out of pain. It's definitely bloody harder than I expected. But we definitely have the base of knowledge behind us now. It's just about putting it into practice, and that comes with more study and more clinical experience, and just the more people you see, you get better at that type of thing. But I definitely think uni got us prepped for it.
100%. And Simon?
Yeah, we got a whole unit in it, and a pretty passionate lecturer on that front, and he's been doing a lot of research in that realm. So I think, yeah, we've, again, like, there's that trend towards that more progressive line of thinking and making sure that we are in tune with all the pain science stuff. And then we just rehashed it through each unit and each musculoskeletal unit for that matter as well, where they always came back to, you know, nociplastic presentations and making sure we understand it and what's going on. So yeah, no, it's definitely getting better.
Yeah, I feel like they've definitely done a better job at universities in the last sort of decade at sort of integrating that into the course, because I feel like we did some. I don't think we did enough, but it sounds like it's heading in the right direction, which is great. Now, on the communication front, as you well know, you're all in private practice now. Communication's king. If you're not a good communicator, you're going to be a pretty shit physio. Now, in terms of the communication side of things, while you've been working in the last X amount of time, because you're all been working for different amounts of time, what have you learnt about communication?
It's bloody important, which I knew coming out, but I found, particularly my first few months, and credit to my mentor for helping me realize this, but I found I was just having someone would come in with pain. I'd do X, Y, Z. I'd try and book them in for a week's time, but I wouldn't explain anything that I was doing properly to them. I would just expect that they knew why I was doing certain things. I didn't explain any of what they could expect in terms of prognosis or how to adjust their exercise if they were sore or if it was too easy. I just kind of left them to their own devices when it came to that, and just didn't give them any kind of solid communication, which I've definitely improved on in the past 6 months or so. But you don't realize until you get out into the real world how important it is just to simply be open and explain to people why you're doing certain things. So that was a big shock to the system. But as I said, definitely something that has improved in the past few months.
Dan?
Yeah, I think it's been, that's probably been one of the biggest learning curves for myself. And, primarily practicing in regional Victoria, typically, not to stereotype, but there is a lower socioeconomic status. People are not as educated. They don't have, the health literacy that obviously I do, being university educated. So it's been massive learning how to tailor that, how you communicate, whether it be, you're communicating the clinical side of things of what's going on, why are they in pain, all that sort of stuff. But even the non-verbal stuff, how you sit, how you just general body language, your active sort of listening, really, understanding what their complaint is, who they are as a person, all that sort of stuff. So it's been huge.
Simon?
Yeah, as I said, for me, it's only the first 4 weeks of practicing. So on that front, it's been a trial by fire, learning how to communicate very quickly. And yeah, in your pain units, you learn, but you explain it to your peers who have just learned the same thing as you and know pain and know how to explain it, as opposed to someone who is genuinely debilitated, genuinely catastrophizing, thinks it's the end of the world, thinks they're not going to, survive or have to get surgery when they definitely don't need it. And it's just trying to talk them over the next 2, 3, 4 consults and making sure it's all okay, which is, I'm still very much learning.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that people need to understand is you need to be a good listener. There's a big difference between being a good communicator and a good listener. You need to be a good listener to be a good communicator. And you can, in terms of processing, you can process 500 to 700 words per minute, but you can only really talk at 120 to 150, I think it is. Probably butchered the stats there. I think it's roughly that. So you need to be able to listen, take it in, and you'll get those clients that walk in the door and, you might say, tell me your story or what can I do for you today? And they just rabbit on for 15 minutes, but you need to obviously maybe interject with them. But with some clients, you can just say, start with an open-ended question and just let them go. Have you noticed that that's a good tool, just letting them talk?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You see that stat come out every now and then where I think, the average time for a healthcare professional to interrupt the client's story is like 7 seconds or something ridiculous like that. And I've had experience with that recently with GPs personally. And so that's been a massive thing for me in my practice. It's open the door, sit them down. How can I help you today? Let them go. Some people, as you said, Wildy, will rabble on for 15 minutes. Other people are like, my shoulder's sore.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, but I think, it's super important just letting them get their story out, because I've found as well, the ones that do rabble on for the 15 minutes, it's probably a good reason that, or there's maybe not a good reason, but there are things in that 15-minute rabble that obviously they've got stuff going on in their life that might be, contributing to their pain. So it's good to get a snapshot of who this person is, what's going on in their life right now. Because as you said, the listening, to be a good communicator, you've got to be a good listener. Sometimes people just need to vent for 15 minutes and get some shit off their chest.
And if you have like an initial consultation, like template in your notes, for example, sometimes you'll find if you listen to someone talk for 4 to 5 minutes, you actually end up filling out most of that template anyway. If you're taking notes on the go, if you just stop and listen, they'll tell you the AGs and eases, the 24-hour pain pattern, whatever you may be looking for. If it's important, they'll probably give it to you in their little spiel anyway, I find.
Oh, 100%. Completely agree. Got anything to add there, Simon? Good chat, boys. Love it.
Yeah, no, just, I think second to what the boys said, I think it's incredible how much people love a chat. And, for me, it's their lunch break. They're 40 minutes away from all the stress of the workplace or something like that. So they just want to come see me, tell me what's going on with them and their lives. But yeah.
People love talking about themselves, don't they?
No. Yeah,
Absolutely.
crazy.
I think the other thing is, in terms of diagnosis, typically the client will tell you the diagnosis, won't they? Have you noticed that? You know, most of the time, the objective assessment is just confirming your hypotheses that you made in the subjective, and that's purely by what the client has told you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed? Yeah.
Right.
Now, in terms of learning, so this has been a big game changer, I think, in terms of the industry. Podcasts, Instagram, YouTube, these type of things, they weren't kind of around when I was around, and I kind of wish they were, because I'm a very visual learner, and I also really like the podcast medium. How helpful has it actually been throughout your study? We'll go with Pat.
Yeah, interesting. You asked that actually, Wildy. So in third year uni, I was going through one of my hospital placements, and I hadn't done any private practice yet at all. And I was kind of just going through the motions, kind of had no real purpose with my studies, wondering, oh, what's next? Like, do I even enjoy physio? That kind of thing. And then I actually started listening to the hybrid podcast that you did with the other Andrew, and you were halfway through a season at that point. So I listened to them all on the train home from placement, like, each day. And honestly, that ignited my passion for physio. And I realized, hang on a minute, it's not exactly what we're taught at uni. It's not all hospital. It's not all manual therapy, simple stuff like that. There's a lot more to it, and I actually could really enjoy this profession. Maybe I am doing the right thing. And then that led me down that rabbit hole, I guess, of starting to listen to more podcasts, more social media, follow the right kind of people. And all of a sudden I fell in love with the profession when I was actually at a crossroad where I didn't know if I wanted to continue doing physio or not, just because I found that it was getting a little bit dry and repetitive and I wasn't loving it. So I guess you could say that social media and podcasts really did ignite my passion for my career. So that's an interesting background story. So I'd agree that it's really important, and it's great that times are changing, that we can use informal means of learning like podcasts and social media. To an extent, I'm sure the boys will touch on, there's some negatives to social media too, but that's an example of how it's been absolutely incredible for me. So thanks, Wildy, for that too, by the way.
My pleasure. But I think the big thing about the negatives, that also is often something that drives conversation, and that allows us to get better because we see what things are out there and the bullshit out there. So I definitely think that it's a good thing to see some of the stuff on social media that you don't agree with, because then you've got to rationalize it and figure out why. Simon, got anything to add about your learning journey with sort of your extracurricular learning modalities?
No, I've very much kind of touched on a lot of different podcasts, picked and chose who I want to listen to. And very similar to Pat, where I was, kind of down in the dumps about, not wanting to work in hospital, but not sure what private practice had in store. And then just kind of finding the right people around me who wanted to practice the same way I practiced, and going to the right places and looking for the right mentors. I've got a great group of mentors which really helped me stick to the straight and narrow and not deviate into what is a million different ways other physios can practice. But I find that listening to your podcast personally was a huge motivation and helped me figure out exactly how I want to practice.
This was not a question. I didn't predict you were going to say this. And for the listeners out there, I have not paid them, I promise. Dan, got anything to add, mate?
Yeah, again, same. I just agree with the guys completely. When I was working just casual at BWS, just a bottle shop, I worked every Friday night, and my shift was like 4 till 10 p.m. or something. From 6 p.m. onwards, the store was absolutely dead. Like, one person would come in every 20 minutes or something like that. So I would spend hours every Friday night, scrolling through Instagram, scrolling through Twitter, jotting down, oh, here's an interesting article that, I might want to read. And so I'd, get up PubMed, read it while I'm at work, and sort of, kill time that way. So yeah, absolutely. Social media's been massive.
What's your favorite drink?
Can't go past just an ice cold VB.
VB.
Oh, Mountain Dew, mate.
Vomit bond. Shit. Simon, what's your favorite drink?
Should I say Emu if I'm from the West?
We don't even know what that is, mate. Pat?
I'd say Carlton Dry, a bit boring, but CC and Dry I'm starting to love lately too.
Yes, I'm huge on the CC. Yes, love it.
I'm diabetic, so I need to steer clear of the sugary drinks.
Oh, yeah.
Sugar-free ginger ale, and we're laughing.
There you go. Beautiful. Now, in terms of your first ever consult, you all said you were nervous. I remember my first ever consult. I shit myself, and you obviously all got through it. You didn't kill the client. How hard was that first week? Because I think people underestimate how hard the first year out of university actually is, let alone the first week. We'll start with Dan.
Like probably the hardest week I'll ever have professionally. Just one, from a clinical point of view, just being so unsure of everything. Two, from a like an admin point of view, like not knowing the processes that well of the clinic, you know, how to rebook, when to rebook, like codes for charging clients, all that sort of stuff. So learning that every day, and just the emotional drainage of every single person that you see. You're seeing them for the first time. You're trying to be present and, you know, present yourself that you're genuinely interested in this person and trying to take on all their personal information. Like brutal.
Simon?
Yeah, it's still happening. No, I'm
still struggling, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. My first client did end up actually going to my mentor for a second opinion, which turned out to be a really tricky midfoot injury. I thought it was a simple lateral ankle sprain, and it was, but it just got a bit trickier. But to boost my confidence a bit, my mentor came up to me. He was like, she did say I should have gotten the MRI like Simon suggested, but I think she just wanted a second opinion, because maybe, again, like everything's kind of fast tracked when really, you know, you're only seeing the person a week later. To you, that's, you know, a lifetime, because you've had the week of learning so much, versus to them, it's just another week, and, you know, the ankle's still sore. They don't need an MRI yet, you know? So that was my first client. But yeah, the emotional investment in every single new client in that first week is a lot.
Pat, got any anecdotes for us?
Similar to the other boys, just obviously quite a big shock to the system, very draining. My first client was actually pretty funny, because I thought I had my first 4 slots free. I was shadowing another physio, and then the receptionist comes in and goes, "Oh, you've got a patient right now who just booked in online. He's out the front." So I had no time to like mentally prep for it whatsoever, straight in the deep end, which is probably good. I feel like you learn a lot when you get thrown in the deep end. Like you have to improvise on the spot and just go for it rather than overthinking it. So, but that was a very memorable first patient. I'll never forget that, because I was absolutely shitting myself because it came out of nowhere. Similar to what Simon touched on too, like, you know, a week, you book someone in a week, it's just, to them, it's not a massive deal. So what I've learned is, don't try to fix the person in the first session. Just don't fuck it up. And then just, you know, give them something, makes them feel a bit better, and then see them in a week, and then you can go on from there, rather than trying to be the savior in the first treatment session, because obviously we're taking them on a journey. We're not just trying to fix people in half an hour or 45 minutes. So that's just something I wanted to touch on too.
Yeah. And they're going to forget a lot of the stuff that you tell them so often, less is more. So you need to be
simple.
yeah, exactly. You got to keep it simple. Completely agree with that. Now, in terms of the mental fatigue from a long day at a physio clinic, you all would have dealt with that recently. Now, it is something that I still deal with, you know, even being reasonably well experienced. You know, if you're seeing 10 plus clients a day and you get home, you're pretty cooked. You obviously probably don't want to really socialize, and I kind of just conk out. I just don't want to see anyone. I don't want to talk to anyone really. How have you coped with that mental fatigue at the end of the day after all those emotional vampires have sucked the life out of you? Pat?
I drag myself out to exercise in some capacity, whether that's gym or running or what have you. I'm not really a morning person, so I tend to go after work and get something done. So that's a good way to kind of detach from work and get back into, I guess, home mode. And then I just really got back into FIFA this year, to be honest, into video games. A good distraction. So I've been, exercising, video games, and then on the weekend, just socializing with family and friends. So just trying to create that balance and not think about work once I get home, trying to just switch off, and which I've got better at as the year's gone on. So,
Dan?
Yeah, same. You know, force myself to exercise. Normally, if Pat is going for a run or goes to the gym, then I feel pretty bad. I'm like, I should probably do something as well. So it's good to have that external motivator in the house as well. But just like, if you know, whatever your vice is, whether it's FIFA, whether it's having a beer, whether it's, I don't know, watching TV or something, there's just got to be something that is not work related. Like, don't bring any notes home, don't bring like treatment planning home, don't bring anything home. Just get home, switch off, like get out of your uniform, have a shower, have dinner, whatever. Just, yeah, because otherwise you just cook yourself.
Yeah, you got to decompress. Simon, you got anything to add?
Yeah, like I think for me, it's different apart. I'm a morning person, so making sure for me it's the gym in the morning, and then I'm fresh, ready to go. And then by the end of the work day, shattered. Make sure you get an early night. Like, just not bringing your notes home, because otherwise you don't have that separation between workplace and home. Yeah, so similar.
Do you have your work emails on your phone, Simon?
I do, but I don't look at them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I make sure that if I'm checking work emails, if it's anything to do with clients or whatever, it's checking when I've got breaks in between clients, which I still do currently. And, I'm not back to back to back to back. So
yeah,
I still have that kind of space to breathe and prep and stuff. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I put my phone on airplane mode probably about 8:30 at night normally, just to completely decompress. It's a little bit different when you're running a business, because obviously you need to make sure you're keeping on top of it. But I would agree with the fact that you shouldn't be taking a lot of stuff home with you. I remember when I first started, some of our lecturers were saying, you should be reading an article a night and you should be doing this every night. And I'm like, I started in practice and I was like, you're absolutely kidding yourself. Like you don't feel like it. And also you're just going to burn yourself out, and you need other vices at the end of the day. I'm the same, boys. Like, exercise, doing something that is completely different, even though we do work in the world of exercise, doing something that's going to decompress you. Watching Yellowstone last night, the season 4 premiere, that's a great decompressor.
And you learn enough on the job, Wildy.
What was that?
I was going to say, you learn enough on the job in your first year. So I do a lot less PD and study outside of work at the moment, because I'm just learning so much every single day. I know it sounds really cliche, but every client I see, I learn something, I reflect on it, you get a bit better. And then with the in-clinic mentoring too. So when I get home, I don't really want to do external PD. So I try and separate myself from that at the moment as well.
Speaking of professional development, what have you got planned and what have you done so far since you've been in practice? We'll start with Pat and Dan, because they've been practicing for a little bit longer, and we'll get to you, Simon, in terms of your plans going forward. We'll start with Dan.
So through work, they run a series of, they call them development days, which through first year and second year, because the new grad program they run as a 2-year program. They'll have a day sort of dedicated to a body part. It's basically a refresher of uni, which is really helpful. They go through all the anatomy, assessment for it, common pathologies, imaging, treatment as well. So we've had that sort of in-house PD through work as well. They've also organised, we did Pilates at the start of the year, dry needling at the start of the year, had like an intro sports course as well. Unfortunately, a few have been cancelled because of COVID. And then outside of work, I've just recently finished Hannah Moves' Communicate course. But that's all I've done out of work. I haven't done anything.
That's all you've
extra.
done. That's a lot.
Yes.
That's all you've done. That's enough in your first 2 or 3 years, let alone your first year. Pat, have you been digesting things as easily as Dan?
Yeah, so all the stuff Dan mentioned is part of our core development program, which we're both obviously very grateful for. So that's been enough for me, obviously, because that's pretty intense at the start, along with like weekly or fortnightly mentoring with our mentor in the clinic. And I've been signed up to Adam Meekins' and Ben McCormack's Better Clinician project. So I keep an eye on that too, watch some videos every now and then when I'm feeling like I've got time or I'm, got the motivation to do so. But yeah, similar to Dan, just mainly the in-house stuff, which has been really helpful.
And Simon, what have you got planned?
Oh God. Well, I've just done my dry needling because I was pretty eager. And then again, probably there's like an APPI Pilates course that the clinic's going to run later down the track. But similar sort of deal. I get my weekly mentoring from my boss. He spent some time in the military, so he knows bits and pieces and some funky different injuries, but he's great just to chat through really tricky clients on a weekly basis. And then monthly, we've got like, because it's a group, we've got all the physios or the new grad physios from the different practices around Perth. In the group, we'll come and do a what we call the tier 1 preceptorship, which is where we get mentored by some of the senior physios about, again, kind of a different body part per month. And then I've put my hand up to do the tier 2 one as well, which is kind of where some more experienced clinicians kind of pick and choose different injuries or body parts that they think, oh, these are tricky presentations that we want to kind of know a bit more about. So we get some specialists or some experienced physios that come in and tell us about that condition on top of the already monthly mentoring. So yeah, no, it's a lot to do. It's similar to the other boys where you're, again, on top of what you're learning on a daily basis, it's like sensory overload. But it's great. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, I still think the biggest thing is you just got to see a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, the more people you see, the better you're going to get. You're going to get better at communication. You're going to get better at listening. You're going to get better at diagnosing. So I think more and more people you can see, the better. But the mentor side of things is super important. Your own self-directed learning, and obviously doing courses, you know, here and there. I think maybe, Dan, you've done too many, but at the same time, I think that that's great. You know, you're pushing the boundaries. I think that's awesome. Maybe you've done enough probably to give yourself a bit of a break in the next 6 months, eh?
I think so, yeah. I've earned it.
For sure. Now, what advice would you give to a 3rd or 4th year physio student, or even younger, you know, 1st or 2nd year student? Dan, we'll start with you. It can be any little golden nugget you think that they would get a bit out of after going through what you've gone through.
Follow lots of people on social media.
The right people, or just everyone?
I'd say lots of people, because then, you know, you form your own sort of opinion on what you believe could be the right way to practice. Read a lot that interests you, and shadow as much as you can.
Yeah, good shout. Simon?
Definitely shadowing for me, like that kind of across different practices, like very different places. Because you may think somewhere's, you know, perfect for you, and then you get in there and you're like, oh, it's just different to what I expected. And then the other big one is get a mentor, whether that be in sport or a particular field that you're interested in, whether that's just mask or whatever. Getting yourself a mentor so you can bounce ideas off them, and they've got experience. They've seen what it's like in the workforce. If you go, oh, I've got this new job, or I've got this place I want to try, like get a gig at, and they go, oh, I you know, take that with a pinch of salt, because this is what, you know, is kind of standard across practices and things. Yeah, I think just getting a mentor so that you can bounce ideas off them.
Similar to what the boys have said, but I'd say, yeah, shadow, even from 1st year uni, 2nd year uni, get into a clinic and shadow different physios. You know, go 4 or 5 different clinics over a year and just spend a day there watching them, what they do. Not only will you get an idea of what physio is about and how different physios can vary, you also set yourself up with some nice networking for when you're a little bit older, when you're looking for a placement, you're looking for a job. You've got these people that have seen you as a keen 19, 20-year-old, or however old you may be, who was keen to learn from the very beginning. So it puts you in a really good place, and you'll be surprised. It's a small world in physio, and people remember your name if you do the right thing early. So you'll set yourself up well for the future whilst learning a lot. And also, I'd probably say get into sports training of some description. So I didn't get to do sports training till my 3rd year because I was playing football, but I wish I did sacrifice to do sports training a bit earlier, just to get your hands on people, touch different types of bodies, see different types of injuries, practice your taping, your manual therapy, that kind of thing. So I definitely recommend joining a sports club and helping out.
Yeah, put yourself out there, and you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you may as well drop a few lines in there, emails, calls, texts, annoy people, because they're going to listen. They're going to eventually give in and give you a job, or you're going to get something out of them. So I definitely think you just got to continue to just pester away. You'll feel like a bit of an idiot, but you got to keep doing it. Because I've had heaps of jobs over the years where I have literally just got it because I've cold called or cold emailed. And I even had, I think I had up to 9 jobs before I opened Wild Physio. And I had heaps of jobs for a few reasons, but one of them was I wanted to see what was out there. I wanted to figure out what type of clinician I wanted to be and also what type of clinic Wild Physio would be. So I made a concerted effort to have a lot of different jobs. Is there anything that you wish you knew before you started work, Simon?
It's okay not to know absolutely everything, and you come out not really knowing much, and that's okay. And it's just, confidence is really important. And I spoke to you boys, Dan and Pat, and I was really nervous when I started, and I knew you guys spent 6 months practicing, and I was thinking, what on earth am I going to do? And just being confident, knowing that you've done a 4-year degree and it's not all for waste. You do know some things that the layperson doesn't, and just being good in practice as a result.
You're better than Dr. Google.
Yeah, supposedly.
Dan?
I would say, and this is a little nugget that I've taken away from Hannah Moves' course. I'm going to give them another plug. People don't change people. So don't feel pressured to be the one that makes someone change either their health beliefs or health behaviors. If someone wants to change those things, they'll change those things. As long as you're the sort of guide, just nudging them in the right direction, when people are ready to make those changes, they'll make them. But don't feel like you're a failure if, people come back in a week's time and they haven't done any exercise, or they haven't quit smoking, or they haven't stopped drinking, because you can't make someone do something that you think is right for them. They need to think that it's the right thing for them.
You can lead a horse to water.
Exactly right.
Pat?
I was going to say what I touched on before. Just keep things a lot more simple than you think you need to when you walk out of uni. So don't try and fix everyone's problems in the first session. Just give some simple advice, 1 or 2 things to work on, and remember that you have time to make a difference. And people don't get better overnight, so don't put too much pressure on yourself to make a difference in 30 minutes. So that's what I'd say.
Completely agree. Great chat, boys. I think that'll probably do us, I reckon. Simon, you probably got to get out of the clinic, lock yourself up.
Yes, definitely.
All good. Thanks for coming on. Have you got any final words, each one of you? Maybe a little bit of advice for anyone listening, or just anything you want to say at the end? Dan?
I think we've gone over quite a few things. One little thing that I'll just touch on, in terms of, wondering what jobs to apply for, or like what job to take if you get offered one. This, obviously speaking to other prospective new grads, your first job's not your last job. So if something feels right, take it. And if you get in and, 3 months in, 6 months in, you're like, no, this isn't for me, quit, get another job. It's pretty straightforward, I think.
Simon, anything to add?
Just know that the learning definitely doesn't stop after uni, and if anything, it exponentially increases. So just be open to learn and be eager, be enthusiastic, and that is, you're doing 90% of the work there.
And be confident.
And confident, yes.
Pat?
As Simon just said, be enthusiastic, smile, be a good person. If you be a good person and you love your job, work hard, then the rest will look after itself.
Yeah, if the clients know, like, and trust you, you're going to do well.
Yeah, exactly right.
That's for sure. Thank you for the 3 of you for coming on, because to be honest, if I was at your stage in your career, it would have been a bit of a shock to go on a podcast. I would have been stressing out a bit. So well done. And I know I didn't give you any podcast prep at all because I wanted to be organic. Pat wanted to be a good boy and do some homework, but thank you for coming on, because it is ballsy. I was never going to test you, but at the same time, I wanted to get your opinions on effectively your experience in the last 4 or 5 years. So thank you for coming on. Dan, where can everyone find you in terms of your Instagram and what else you're doing? Whether you got a personal Instagram, everyone wants to see you holidaying or whatever.
We'll go with the professional Instagram. It's at physio.dan. Nice and simple.
Dan and I did a nice little collaboration earlier in the year about scans on pain, people that didn't have any pain. Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah,
we got there. Simon, where can we find you?
Oh God, my Instagram's not superb, but it's Simon _Parsons _ physiotherapy, and then just LinkedIn or wherever. Yeah.
Feel free to put you can tell everyone your mobile number if you're single. This is going on YouTube.
God, no.
I think we're all taking blokes. So.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
we
Okay,
are.
Pat.
My Instagram is pat_physio. I don't post a lot at the moment. I've actually posted less since I started working, but probably get back on that again soon. So chuck it a follow.
Yeah, don't stress. You don't need to be posting too much. Just get better at your job.
Good advice.
For sure. Seriously.
Wise words.
Thanks for having us.
There's not enough time in the day to worry about Instagram while you're trying to be a new grad and, you know, develop your skills. So I wouldn't stress too much.
Thanks, Wildy.
Pleasure,
Cheers,
boys.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.
No, my pleasure. This podcast is live on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Google, all that jazz. And as usual, stay strong.